Video on common opening chess traps for beginners and ways to avoid it. Well, in today's video, we'll begin with a trap involving the Sicilian defense. So, e4, c5, knight 3, knight c6, d4, c captures on d4, knight captures on d4, knight f6, knight c3, and e5. We have this is a strategy cooperation to Sicilian, and this line has become extremely popular after the World Chess Championship match between two big C's, which are Carson's and Coronas, of course. And after that match, we have 10 years old modeling their repertoire like Magnus Carlsen. So the main line runs knight to d5, threatening to jump to d6 and win the bishop pair, and giving black a weak backward d pawn. In the long term, it would be a liability. So d6. Here the main line is bishop to g5 for g5, a6, knight a3, b5, and either knight d5 or capturing knight f6. Knight d5 is the main line, which goes like this, and c3, where white tries to rewrap this knight on the rim from a3 to c2 to e3, where it will also fight for the central f5 and d5 square. And black will play bishop to g5 to h6 if it gets attacked with h4, bishop e2, g3, and we'll continue with this development with bishop e6, with b8, and so on and so on. But in the World Chess Championship match and in this video in particular, we'll have the knight b5 line, which Corona opted for against Carlsen, and I believe it was 3 games. Yeah, 3 games. Corona opted for this line. So knight captures, pawn captures, and Magnus played both knight to b8 and knight to e7, but he played knight e7 more than knight e8 afterwards, so we'll go with that move. And knight b8 seems a bit more unnatural than this knight e7. The idea is knight g6 after e4 is pushed to rewrap it to the strong e5 square, where it will have threat against the b3 and f3 square. So c4 by white, continuing with the play on the queen side, as he does have this 4 to 3 majority on the queen side. We'll try to get a passer attack, pressure black's position. And here, the main line and the strongest continuation is of course knight g6, following with the plan, and white will play something like bishop e2, bishop e3, or g3 to prevent knight f4, or even a4 and queen to b3. Those are all possible moves. And black can play bishop f5 or f5 immediately, or bishop e7, prevent the castle and create a nice kingside attack if white ever castle kingside. So, but black should proceed with his usual kingside play. And here, there's a chance that black might plummet, and it's not actually a trap in this first line I'll show you. Yeah, if black try to get this pesky knight b5 off as a nice square, for example, to a3 or c3 with like a6. After in this position, if instead of knight e7 to g6, if black try to kick the knight away from b5, then white wins immediately with queen to a4. Threatening a double checkmate if this knight move. Just show it. If white plays something like, for example, queen b6. If black plays something like queen b6, then knight Now it's not checkmate, but the knight will take f7 with a fork, and white black cannot castle. Bishop e3 is coming. Well, not at the moment, as the b2 pawn will hang, but knight takes f7 will win exchange, and the game is completely lost for black. So after queen a4, if black captures the knight, for example, this just loses exchange, so not an option. And white is completely winning, and he's also out in development. He can freely create a passer with a4, b4, a5, b5, and a6. And black just got material without any real compensation. So capturing the knight is not an option. So what about knight g6? Knight g6 also loses to knight takes b6 with a double check from the queen and the knight, and the king has to move. Well, there's a saying in chess that the bravest king has to flee in face of a double check. After king to e7, which is the only move, then even c5 comes. Black tries to get this c5 pawn away from the defender of the knight. Even b4 comes, and the knight on d6 is a thorn in black's position itself, and you can look at the engine evaluation. It is just completely lost for black. For example, bishop f4 is coming. Well, black can block with f6, but then the bishop retreat. For example, bishop g5 to e3 retreating, or bishop c4, white can free castle. Is a lost position. And if black ever trades, for example, b captures and b captures, and this knight stays on b6 with a monstrous position for white. If a4, a5, then white can simply defend with bishop d2, and again white is winning. So not an option to capture, not an option to move the knight to g6. Well, basically the game is lost if black plays this a6 move. And lastly but not leastly, if some of you are thinking of blocking the check, the double check, with bishop d7 is actually a mating one, a very nice smart sort of checkmate. I don't have to ask you to pause the video or think for any seconds. It's just knight takes d6 checkmate. As you can see, the queen has been prevented from guarding the d6 square by this bishop to d7 move. So black should not play a6 and proceed with knight g6, and only then play a6 and a5. If white tries to play knight c3 to a4 and then to b6 after a4, a5 is pushed. So let's move on to the next one. So the following one is a pretty well-known one, and pretty much every chess player who studied chess history and has heard that Bobby Fischer knows this trap, and it's actually a trap named after him. So again, we have a Sicilian captures g6, the accelerated dragon, knight c3, bishop g7, bishop e3, and knight f6 by black, bishop c4, castle. But here white doesn't castle. White plays bishop back b3, setting up a trap and trying to bait this knight on a5 move, going after the strong left strike bishop on b3. And I believe it was the game Fischer Reshevsky that reached this point, and Reshevsky for some reason played it. Knight a5, but now white wins with this e5 move. And black is in serious trouble. For example, if knight takes e3, then pawn takes, knight takes a1, and the knight is just trapped there. White can simply capture on g7 with the threat of capturing the rook with check. So king takes g7 is forced, and while queen takes a1, you will see that white has two knights for this rook, inactive rook on f8. So white is just crushing this position. And if black doesn't go for this, but rather play something like knight h5, well then g4 traps the knight. It's relatively simple, but it works. As you can see, the f6 square is covered by the pawn, and the every dark square that the black knight can jump to is covered by the white pieces, and the bishop is blocking the g7 square. So black will lose a piece and of course the game. But in the game, Reshevsky played well, knight e8, and this is actually a huge blunder, as Fischer here unleashed the move. Well, you guess the move? Well, the engine is confusing here. Bishop takes f7. In the game, Reshevsky captured with a rook. I'll show you what happened if you capture the king then, but after the knight e6 move, Reshevsky didn't resign, but he played on. Well, if he plays on, the game is basically lost either way. So queen captures queen, as the queen blow. The queen is no longer protected. On previous move, you see c7, d6 are all covered. So pawn takes e6, grabbing some material for the queen knight here, where you don't want to play something like queen captures knight on e8, as rook to f8 will trap the queen, win the queen back, and even though white will have the exchange, it is not that great compared to the position you get with the queen on the board. And after knight c6, a retreating move, for example, queen to d2, preparing queenside castle and exchanging of the bishop with some pawn pushing action on the king side to pass over the h file will be the idea, and white will win this eventually. But in the game, we have rook captures, and Fischer simply played knight e6. After this, Bishop captured the queen, and a couple of moves later, Reshevsky resigned. But what if black captures the queen? Sorry, captures the bishop with the king? Well, again we have this knight e6 move. The queen doesn't have any good square. It will get taken anywhere it moves, or if you ignore the knight will capture the queen, and it's even worse. So if black decides to take the knight, well then d5 check is actually a forced checkmate. You see it's a mate e5 here. So king f5, g4 check, all these are forced. To h1 check, king can go to e4, sorry f5 or f5, king goes to f5 rather. Then it's actually mating one with rook to g5 checkmate, so not going to f5, but rather to the h file is slightly better. And it seems that the king is a fighter, not really. For example, king goes to h3, then queen check, king move, queen check is mate. And if the king doesn't go to h3, for example, h4, then queen check. Rook has to block to prolong the game. Queen captures, king goes anywhere, then for example here, then queen g5 is checkmate, and king goes to h3, then queen to g3 checkmate. So you might as well run to h5, but if again doesn't work, queen d1 check, rook has to block, and now queen captures, rook is just leading to checkmate on g4. You can see the king running all the way from g8 to f7, e6, f5, g4, and then h4. What a picture. So basically the game is lost after bishop takes f7. And actually the bishop is strong, but black doesn't have to play this move immediately. Black can proceed with a6, b5, and white should not castle queenside with this accelerated dragon position, as sometimes black can play e6 or eliminates this bishop later, with knight a5 and taking a defender at the d5 square and then push d5 right away. Not like in the other lines, but in the traditional line of dragon where the pawn is on d6 and black will have the western move pushing into d5. And d5 will break open the center and create a very nice counterplay for black on the queen side and in the center. So let's move on to the next game. Sorry, to the next trap. So it is actually a trap involving the Vienna Gambit. So e4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, f4, the Vienna Gambit, d5. Phobia counter gambit, fully equalizing for black, almost. For example, f5, knight e4, d3, queen h4, check, g3, knight g3, f3. Changing is confusing here, so never mind. Queen h5, knight takes b5, bishop to g4, knight f4, knight takes, sorry, bishop takes f3. These are considered to be the best move according to theory. So captures, and knight takes h5, bishop takes here, bishop takes queen, trading queens, captures and captures. Here we will lose as a bishop pair, so not great for black. And should try to retreat the bishop to g4, and the game goes on. But if you try for some reason try to grab the c2 pawn, loses a piece due to b3. And you see that there's no way for this bishop to escape. Any knight c6 move will be well, too slow. Simply too slow. White will play the king here and knight goes here, trying to defend the bishop, just a3, keep the bishop away, keep the knight away. And if knight d4, then again bishop to d2 maybe? Yeah, I guess it's to move. Knight goes here, yeah, bishop here, trying to remove the defender, knight is here. With bishop to b4 check, and just go here, and the knight is attacked, bishop is under attack, if the knight is taken, g7 pawn is hanging, and overall white will win this. So the bishop should retreat in that position. And let's move on to another trap. This trap will again involve the Sicilian. So e4, c5, 3, c6. Well, this position can be reached via different orbits. Knight f6, knight c3, d6, the classical Sicilian. c4. And here black can play a6, for example a6, e6, or even e5 or bishop b7. Those are all fine moves. But if for some reason black plays g6 in this position, this will be a pretty well big inaccuracy. For example, white will, sorry, not for example, white can seize the initiative with knight c6. After bc2, we have this white has e5 move. Well, for example, if pawn captures and black loses immediately, the bishop takes check, king captures and d8 with the queen for a piece, or actually winning a pawn and a queen, sorry, winning a queen for a piece, and black will lose this game. And instead of this, black goes for the counter attack in the center with d5, then well, e takes f6, pawn takes d8, king captures without, for example, bishop, sorry, for example, pawn captures and bishop e4 followed by queenside castle, and white has a lead involvement, and this pawn is these pawns are weak, and white will have the advantage here. Even though black has a bishop pair, as this bishop doesn't have any immediate threat. This bishop also. So that is an option for black, but if black captures this pawn on the back, then he loses immediately. And we can also play knight h5, but we'll have queen f3, knight c6 pawn, e6. Now, if black plays b5 in this position, you can get knight c5, pawn b5, if you go for this crossed line, takes pawn, threatening the rook on the a8, while the queen and bishop are acting at rook, so you might as well move it and suffer from queen f7 check. Move. And sorry, bishop takes f7 is a move. Move, queen check, king move again, queen check, king to piece. Sorry, we go king. E7, you get made in one move to e6, and if you go to well, b7, which seems pretty safe on this corner. Well, you get crushed with bishop b5 check, and you have the queen, and not even mention that e6 can come to completely suffocate this bishop. And white can put a castle, you can push the pawns, develop this bishop to e3, and if you count the material, white is actually having a queen against a bishop and a knight, and he's up 2 pawns, so that's a lot of material, and white has a very active queen on the b5 square. So let's go back. This one forced all the way to losing the queen, and we can violently chase away. For example, after queen f3, this position, black has to play e6, blocking some open lines and capturing c6 is not all that great now, as the position is blocked and the rook is guarded. White loses all the initiative. For example, now we have g4, knight to g7, not seeing a bit misplaced there, but at least it doesn't get taken for free. Knight e4 by white, e5 and knight f6 check, and b5 is not possible in this position. For example, queen check seems right, but after bishop d2, you can see knight to queen is again trapped. And if instead of that, after knight e4, for some reason you play this d5 move, then weakens this diagonal. The idea is knight f6 check. If black does not want to part with the queen, he needs to play king e7 and this same force check e3. As you can see here. So not an option. There are a variety of tactics and look in the position, and black is not careful, you might run into a field of landmine at any moment. And that's why this is so sharp. So many grandmaster play it, and amateur and beginners should not mess around with this opening. You play for fun or entertaining purposes, but messing around with such tactical opening is not great. These are the tricky lines. So, not yet a losing position of the opening. Like to play something like knight g4, and after e6, if pawn captures and queen captures knight, black can play f5 and have a pretty decent game. This bishop is now blocked. This is now blocked by its own pawn, and after d5, black has a strong center, and you can play bishop takes e6, bishop g7, and black is even slightly better. So that's the way to avoid losing. We can sometimes have checkmated, and black should proceed with this sequence instead of some crazy idea like capturing the pawn on 5 or going on h5. So let's move on to the following trap. This trap is trying to involve the reload as pawn e5, knight 3, this is 6, bishop b5, knight 6, d3, the anti-Berlin, which is popular, and black tries to confuse white with this knight 7. Black tries to play a lesser move to confuse white and trying to trick white to going for this e5 pawn, which seems very obvious and juicy. But if white can't just pawn on e5, he's simply lost. So after c6, black wins a piece. For example, bishop c4, queen and 5 check wins the knight on e5, as you can see. And if the bishop retreats to a4, then check, it will block to defend the bishop. Knight c3, then you again lose the knight. And the engine is recommending after c6, recommending some crazy idea with x7, or check, for example, but this is also losing for white. So after this knight e7 move, d4, bishop e3, knight c3, and castling, they all give white the edge. And well, sometimes you should not just be greedy and go for a pawn-grabbing action that your opponent offered you without thinking of the consequences. And there's another trap I want to show you. It's a silly. This time it's a creeping offbeat line. It's not offbeat, but it's red. c5, 3, 6, 3, g6, and white goes f4. Going for the 11th variation. And here you can see that d5 is threatened, and knight d7 or knight fd7 or even knight c6 are crucial. Okay, as you know that e5 is coming, and playing d5 doesn't make any sense as the blocking your bishop, trying to think at the bishop and this diagonal. Put a pawn there, the bishop is finally locked in. So g6 f4, and for some reason black tried to play the normal dragon on bishop g7. Then he's getting into some trouble because after e5 he captures, the knight doesn't have any great square. If knight e7, then e6 comes, and if bishop captures knight, then pawn captures knight with check. Queen has to capture, and after bishop captures knight and pawn captures pawn is winning for white. As pawn captures, king captures, queen captures, and then bishop c4 check followed by castle. By white is coming, and white has usually development with the black very without square bishop, and white is left with this powerful dark square bishop that cannot be opposed. See these dark square weaknesses around the black key will be decisive. So e6, if you for some reason capture and at this position, and intermediate bishop takes c3, well, and try to move the queen with a5, then bishop to d2 becomes white sorry, not bishop to b2, but rather queen to d2. Sorry, I did this. Queen to d2. Yeah, queen d2, going to the white some edge. Here he does a double pawn, but the bishop once it arrives on the c4 square will be unopposed. And one can put a castle. And black cannot castle because while the knight is covering the f square, and you cannot bring the rook f8 also because of the knight. So after this move, if you if black plays for some reason plays knight h5, then well, white does not play g4 immediately. If white plays g4, then black has this move which threatens the knight on d4 and captures on d5, then black captures on d4, and black is even better. If black captures h5, of course. But the idea of this knight h5 move is bishop b5 check. This knight move, you will see it repeated again and again and again. Bishop block, while then g4 doesn't trap the bishop, sorry, trap the knight. Black doesn't have bishop captures on which comes with double attack on knight on d4, as the queen is now blocked by a bishop on d7. And that's the idea. If knight h5 is played, knight g4, again we have this crucial check, bishop to b5 check. Well, you play king f8, you lose immediately to knight e6 check, and then queen captures queen is happening. And move the king. Sorry, knight block. Captures, and white is up in material and winning this game. You see that here in the rook of 4. And breaking a fate, you lose this immediately. The queen takes queen. So, the other line where knight g5 comes, then bishop b5 check again, but it's the same problem, you cannot block on the queen. Then g4 will come. So let's return to this position. Like let's knight back shape is just ugly looking move. You're ugly loving your pieces, and you're never castling king side now. And here we already covered that this e6 move loses its wins an edge for a while. So captures knight e5. Again, we have this bishop b5 check thematic move, and bishop block, then knight captures knight, bishop captures bishop, knight captures bishop, and this works at both knights more than in a vulnerable c7 square, and white will be up a piece winning the game. And after this, after this f4 move, knight b7 is crucial because it simply prevents just pawn plus capture, then black will capture and laugh at you. Pretty simple, right? And we already explained that knight d5 doesn't work, knight g4 doesn't work, knight h5 doesn't work, knight g8. Another move. g7, g5. Here immediately, and also is bad. It's this one. And again, white has an edge. So, some way to avoid this pawn thrusts, essentially, what we see here, knight c6 and sorry. But after d5 is very limited to like ancient defense line. Yeah, knight h5 here immediately is to cutting here, g4, then black simply take on e5. And again, we have the same line as f captures and bishop captures. So one has to throw in this bishop b5 check, and so on. So that's all for this video, and for this final time, I want to remember to move this either knight to d7 or knight c6 to fully equalize the position for black. And thank you all for watching. Hopefully see you soon in another chess video.